Picture this. You wake up and immediately pretend you didn't. You stare at the ceiling like it's got answers, hoping maybe the meaning of life will spell itself out in drywall cracks. Your brain boots up with a weird mix of guilt, hunger, and that one memory where you called your teacher mom in 7th grade. Again, you're not sad, but you're definitely not okay. You're in that emotional gray zone where your dreams cost effort and cereal feels like a coping mechanism. You sit there thinking, what happened to me? Not in a dramatic way. More like, how did this version of you win? The one who's half motivated, half scrolling, and 100% not living the life you once hyped yourself up for. You tell yourself it's just a slump. You'll bounce back. You just need a new routine, a new mindset, a slightly better chair. But deep down, you're suspicious. Because every time you try to change, it lasts about as long as your interest in documentaries about productivity. You've got ambition. You just don't know where it went. Like it got tired of waiting and left without a forwarding address. And that's where it starts. The doubt, the label, that quiet voice in your head that goes, maybe I'm just a loser? You don't say it out loud, of course. You laugh it off. You meme it. But it sticks. And the worst part? You can't even tell when it started. Because being a loser doesn't hit like a car crash. It seeps in like slow Wi-Fi. And one day, you realize you're buffering through your own life and calling it figuring things out. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the whole concept is garbage? Let's rewind this disaster and see where it all went sideways. Alright, so you're feeling like a loser. Not in a tragic Shakespearean way. In a modern, I just watched 14 motivational reels while laying in the exact same position for 3 hours way. But here's the plot twist. You didn't become a loser. You got scammed. At some point, probably between your first awkward school dance and the day you Googled how to have purpose, someone slipped a virus into your mental operating system. And that virus whispered, hey, if you're not constantly achieving things, you're basically expired yogurt in human form. And you believed it. We all did. You didn't even notice it happening. You were just a kid, vibing, drawing a dinosaur with 7 legs, and boom! Suddenly life became a scoreboard. Now it's grades, followers, abs. Do you own a home yet? Energy from people who still microwave fish in the office. You weren't raised to feel worthy. You were raised to perform. Perform happiness. Perform potential. Perform like a slightly broken productivity robot running on coffee in comparison. And that's the origin story, baby. You downloaded the loser identity pack accidentally when you tried to update your personality with rise and grind quotes. That one journaling app you opened twice, and a smoothie made of kale, regret, and unsatisfied ambition. According to data I just made up, 87% of people feel like they're behind in life. The other 13% are in Bali, lying about how good they feel off social media. Now you're stuck in the approval Hunger Games, where your value feels based on how quickly you reply to emails, how many people heart react your Insta story. Whether you said, I'm busy recently, even if you were just reorganizing apps, you're not lazy. You're just exhausted from the pressure to be impressive 24/7, even while folding socks or pretending to understand crypto. So here's the truth. You're not a loser. You're just playing a game with rules you never agreed to, and the scoreboard is fake. Seriously, nobody's keeping score but you. And that voice in your head that keeps calling you a failure? It's just a tired narrator. Let's replace him soon. Here's the thing about feeling like a loser. It doesn't show up as one big dramatic meltdown. It shows up as tiny daily decisions that scream, I've given up, but politely. Like how you open your phone to check one thing, just one, and suddenly you're 3 years deep into an influencer's Instagram, judging your self-worth based on how happy her plants look. You think you're just taking a break. But somehow that break has lasted 3 presidential administrations. And then there's the meal decision spiral. You stand in front of your fridge like it's a mystical portal. Will I find purpose behind the almond milk? Or just more emotional leftovers and a single sad tortilla? You close it. Come back. Check again. As if hope is respawning behind the condiments. Meanwhile, your work life becomes a Broadway-level performance of productive human doing important things. You light a candle. You open your laptop. You boldly rename a file. Then you minimize everything and open YouTube like a raccoon crawling back to its shiny trash. You're not working. You're not resting. You're just hovering in a mental loading screen, performing busy to avoid confronting the terrifying truth that you're scared to suck at something for real. And don't even get started on how every mildly successful person now feels like a personal attack. You see someone post, "Just ran my first 10K." And you're like, "I too stood up today." Briefly, your brain starts comparing everything, immediately and irrationally. You could rescue a baby koala from a house fire and still feel worse because your college roommate just bought a third air fryer and started a podcast called Mindset and Matcha. And worst of all, you start apologizing for existing. You say sorry when someone bumps into you. You apologize when the Zoom call lags, as if your Wi-Fi personally disrespected the entire team. At this point, you're one bad day away from saying sorry to a toaster for being too loud. Because once that loser identity sets in, you stop living boldly. You start minimizing yourself like an unused app. You keep your goals at arm's length. You start saying maybe to every opportunity, not because you're unsure, but because you're afraid to be seen trying. As my uncle used to say before abandoning his dreams and moving into a shed, if you don't risk failing, you'll never accidentally succeed. This is what loser energy does. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet enough to ruin your potential without making a scene. But here's the good news. You can fight back. You just have to stop playing by the rules that made you feel like a loser in the first place. Let's get one thing clear. You don't heal from loser syndrome. You mutate. You grow fangs. You grow wings. You grow the kind of energy that walks into a room and says, "I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway," loudly. Because the only way to stop feeling like a loser is to stop trying not to look like one. You've spent too long living like your life is a resume, editing, deleting, dressing it up in keywords. But this isn't LinkedIn. This is the full contact psychological UFC of existing. You don't need to impress anyone. You need to shock yourself into motion. That means saying screw it to perfection and doing the thing horribly. Write the ugly paragraph. Launch the half-baked idea. Record the video where your voice cracks and your lighting makes you look like a haunted candle. Because perfection? That's the trap. Perfection is how people stay frozen forever in a swamp of unstarted dreams and unopened Canva files. No one climbs out of rock bottom with a flawless plan. They crawl out covered in glitter, shame, and a half-eaten granola bar yelling, "I'm back, baby! And I brought snacks." And no, you don't need to wait until you feel ready. If we all waited until we felt ready, humanity would still be living in caves arguing about whose stick is the sharpest. Here's the truth. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a side effect of doing weird stuff consistently until your brain gives up and calls it self-esteem. So embarrass yourself. Gloriously. Repeatedly. Make cringe your spiritual fuel. Let people judge. Let your inner critic whimper. Let your doubts sit in the passenger seat while you speed off in a flaming shopping cart of purpose. Because once you stop tiptoeing through life like you're trying not to wake up failure, you realize failure was never sleeping. Failure was just sitting there with a cup of tea, waiting for you to do literally anything worth talking about. As my barber once told me after giving me a haircut that changed my religion, you gotta mess it up before you glow it up. So no more waiting. No more watching. No more collecting rejection letters from realities you never applied for. You're not here to be safe. You're here to be legendary by accident. Go make chaos. Go start something stupid and beautiful. Go become the kind of person you were scared of being because they were actually alive. So here you are. You've laughed. You've cringed. You've spiritually dry-heaved at the realization that your entire sense of worth might have been built on expired motivational posters and your aunt's opinion at Thanksgiving. But now it's time for the twist. Here it comes. You were never a loser. You were just playing a game designed to make you feel like one. And not just any game, a game with invisible rules, infinite levels, and absolutely no customer support. From the day you first compared yourself to Chad, got left on red, or failed a math quiz and decided, "I'm just not a math person," you unknowingly signed up for the Lifetime Self-Doubt Olympics. But guess what? The entire scoring system is fake. It's like playing Monopoly with someone who printed their own money, made up new rules halfway through, and called it grind culture. You've been grading yourself on results, on likes, on timelines, on vibes. But what if, just what if, being a loser is just what happens when your soul gets stuck in spectator mode? You think you failed. But actually, you've just been zoomed in too close. You're out here judging your life like it's a single blurry frame from a movie you haven't finished. Relax. You're not a loser. You're the main character, baby. You're just in that weird part of the movie where everything sucks for 20 minutes before the epic comeback montage drops and you run in slow motion across a metaphorical beach while dramatic music plays, and your ex regrets everything. So what do you do now? Easy. Close the app. Flip the table. Take your inner loser out for coffee and tell them, you're not the villain. You're just dramatic. Let's go be legendary. Because the truth is, you're not behind. You're not broken. You're not late. You're just weirdly early to your own greatness. And the universe is still setting up the chairs. And as the sacred Amazon review once said, wouldn't buy again. Too much self-awareness. But 5 stars for character development. The end. Or maybe just the restart. Now go. 'Cause chaos. Be cringe. And never again let anyone, including yourself, label you a loser.